Hi and hello and welcome to episode 42 of Going Over. I, of course, am Fred Slow. Not alongside me is Saleh Taylor. No, special guest host, my co-host of Two Men On, wrestling enthusiast and first-timer Duke City Championship Wrestling, Isaiah Johnson. Isaiah, welcome to the program, brother.
Thank you. It's a pleasure. And I like the name wrestling enthusiast. I will accept that one.
You've had that one your whole life, though, right?
Oh,
So
yeah.
you're 25, 26?
26.
When did you get into the world of pro wrestling? Was it like while you were drinking from the bottle? Is it that kind of thing?
So I remember it vividly. It was actually my uncle. So I guess as a little kid, I used to love having like the Rock underwear. And I guess I was a fan of The Rock, but that was before I can remember.
Sure.
But from when I can remember actually watching and caring, I was laying with my uncle, and he was a big wrestling fan. And the Undertaker entrance came on, and this was, I think it was right when he switched back to what do we call him? Not last right Undertaker. We call
American Badass.
No, it was after that one. So
okay, yeah,
right. We'll call him the Phenom. It was when he first switched back to that, and it was dark in the room, so the whole room was lit up blue.
yeah.
I was just mesmerized by it, and I was like, whoever this guy is, like, I want to watch him every time he comes out. And
I love that.
The rest was history.
So was that a way for you to build relationship like with your family? Was that a way for you with your uncle, or was that a way for you with like those that surround you? Was it easy conversation piece? Because you and I both grew up in Illinois. We both grew up. I grew up right outside of St. Louis, Missouri. You grew up just south of Chicago, and it's hard for Midwest dudes to have time spent unless there's like an activity involved. Like we don't just hang out.
Yeah, so it was a big deal, and he actually passed, I'd say maybe 2 years after the story I just told you.
Sure.
So every single time I'd go over there, it was all wrestling. He was playing SmackDown versus Raw, and I just wanted to play with him, and that was a big thing. So then when he passed, it just was one of those things where it's like, this is always going to stick with me, because I just always thought of him. And my dad he's not huge on it, but my uncle was the guy, so I kind of took the baton.
So then you were never able to reach that age to where you were going to territories, or you going to local promotions, or you were going to independence with your family. Like you were too young before that became fashionable. How many non-WWE pro wrestling events have you been to?
Non-WWE outside of Duke City, I have not been to any. I
Well,
went to a WWE in Peoria, Illinois, at the Peoria Civic Center.
Yeah, nice.
2006, and I've actually gone on Peacock and went and found that episode, and I can see myself in the third row. It's awesome. It was actually when Undertaker fought Mr. Kennedy for the Beat the Clock challenge.
You low-key love Mr. Kennedy, and and that's why I thought you'd be a perfect guest for today, because you had your first like territory, like independent pro wrestling experience at the historic El Rey Theater last July the 19th. So obviously we've had one airing of Going Over since then. That was pre-taped. That was pre-recorded to the time of that event. So this is our first taping since the July 19th locked in event, which you attended your first one. You came with Van Nunley, got the fun regional celebrity treatment. Maybe for, the friends of the show and the friends and fans of Duke City Championship Wrestling that are listening, Isaiah, kind of give a rundown on what the night was. Talk about your incredibly low bar of expectation, and then talk about how we were fortunate to meet that low bar.
So we finished the show right across the street.
2 Men On.
Yes, we finished 2 Men On, and then me and Van and this nice lady went and walked on over to the historic El Rey.
Yep.
And there was security up front, and I was impressed by that right off the gate. I'm like, okay, there's security making sure that everything is secured in here, and they're scanning everybody. And Mr. Buck, he comes up and he says, "Hey, these guys are with me. They're good."
Stop.
They just let us in. So that was the first taste of celebrity treatment I got. And then when I got in, Van was super nice. He offered to get me a ranch water. And
that's his go-to. It's it's like tequila and soda. And then did he call it a ranch water, or did he call it a Hobo Hank water? Because that's what he does at wrestling.
He called it a ranch water, but from now on, I'll call it the Hobo Hank water.
It's so funny. It's Hobo Hank water from the shores of the Rio Grande. That's
okay. I like that.
So you walk into the El Rey. Had you been in the El Rey before?
I hadn't.
Okay, so first exposure to the El Rey, which, by the way, friends of the show, anyone that tunes in terrestrially here in town, if you haven't got a chance to go to the El Rey, those that take the time with us via the internet for other opportunity, if you haven't, please do come to the El Rey. It's over 100 years old. The history of the wood floors that embody it, the world that exists around that pro wrestling, or excuse me, around that venue is so cool and so neat. And over the year now we've been hosting monthly pro wrestling there, it has become a pro wrestling venue.
Yeah, and that's it. I was imagining that in there. I'm like, I can't see how this could have been built for anything else other than what's taking place in here, because the way it's set up is perfect. You've got the back area where the wrestlers can come out.
Yeah.
It's the perfect size ramp. The ring fits in there. There's plenty of seats. And then there's even an upstairs balcony where you can go get a different view. And then also, you guys have TVs positioned in different areas so that if you're not able to get a good view, you can see right on the TV.
It's, and it's a wild approach to it, because I think traditionally in the world of territory or regional or independent pro wrestling, what it is, it's a KC Hall. It's a Knights of Columbus kind of thing. It's a wherever you can fit a ring in, and maybe even a low boy ring, because the roof it's hard to find high roofs, and you go in and it's just 360 degrees of chairs and the performers, and it's Shakespeare, right? It's the last example of live theater fully immersed. And you go in and the performers have to perform to all four sides of that ring, and they have to tell stories, because front row on the east side is worth just as much as front row on the west side. With Duke City Championship Wrestling, it's a TV product. And the way it presents is the stage behind, and those individuals are on TV the whole broadcast, and they love it and take advantage of it. and then we got a bunch of guys telling stories to hard camera front.
Mm-hmm.
And you are able to be behind me where I am broadcasting from. So I have my setup there. Did you feel like you were able to get the entire story? Did you feel like you were able to follow storylines being a first timer now 14 months into this thing? Did you feel like you could pick it up quickly?
Oh yeah, and I bet even if I went to different angles, I would have felt the same way. But like even from the angle I was at from behind you, it seemed as if we were the front. And I bet every side of the ring felt as if they were being presented as the front, like the focus. And I think the wrestlers did a good job of that, coming up on the ropes, getting involved with the fans on all sides, especially Hobo Hank. I mean, he's
wild.
All sides. He even went in the crowd, and that's another thing I think is awesome in today's world, to be able to have the comfort to still walk through the crowd and trust the Duke City wrestling fans, to be into it and behave appropriately.
Well, and there's a rush to it too, right? Because like when Mr. Bojangles hits, it's a nitty-gritty dirt band. When Mr. Bojangles hits, and I mean, you were there, it's 500 people, and they're scream singing Mr. Bojangles right along his entrance. And he comes out, and you'll notice this moving forward. This is super inside pro wrestling I'm about to give you. A lot of guys come out and they'll walk clockwise around the ring, and Hobo Hank comes out and he walks counterclockwise, right? It's a different approach to it, and that's to make it feel a little different. There's all kinds of theater to this thing, right? You'll notice guys, pro wrestlers in the ring, they always work in one direction. They always work towards it's counterclockwise. You'll see this moving forward all the time now, and the idea is that way the audience knows like the pacing of the event. And whenever you do get like a big like swerve start, or whenever you do get a big whatever, that's because it wasn't set up that way. That's why it feels a little more emphasis. So anyway, so Hobo Hank comes out, and whenever he comes out, he does that approach, and people flock. They leave their seats to bring him like a beer that he can, and he gimmick drinks it. You know what I mean? So he goes to do his whatever thing, and his mouth is open, but it's just ending up all over his shirt. It's ending up on the.
He's not drinking it.
It's like, do you ever see Steve Austin actually drink a bunch of them? And you're like, oh, hey, whenever he was doing GM stuff, he would have too many, and by the end, like this, and you're like, just stop
like
doing that.
In his WrestleMania match, he was drinking them like he was thirsty.
Oh, well, in his retirement match, he was like, I got nowhere to go. Thanks, Rock. So, so Hobo Hank comes out, and people, they rush him, right? Like they want to hand him their drink, and they want to get a picture, and like Teller Vodka is there, right? Like Teller Vodka is the proud sponsor, and they want to make sure he's putting watermelon walk off in his mouth for all these photos. It's so funny to me. But that was the main event. You were there way before the main event. Now you didn't. You didn't show up whenever I came out and introduced the show, so you don't get to hear everyone boo me as I come out.
That would have been an experience.
They don't do that. I tell you what, they're so kind to me. So as I come out to the crowd, and I had missed a show. You know, you and I have talked about this a lot, but you know, my father passed away recently, and so I had to miss a show. So I come out, and the crowd hits me with the "Welcome back."
I bet you shed a tear,
brother. No, I missed one show. Like, no, I said it. I go, no, I missed one. Like, also, I didn't want to be here. Like, I had to go. So they come out, banger of a show. We could run the whole card. There's no reason to. You can catch everything on watchdccw.com. But you won't remember every detail, but you remember the emotion. Give me your emotion, Isaiah. Give me what it felt like throughout. Did you feel regularly surprised? Did you feel regularly entertained? Did you feel regularly disappointed? Like, what was that experience for you internally?
So one thing about me, and this is why I'm always very picky about when I do go out, if I go out to places, is I'm very observant of people. Like, I almost can't help it. So if there's a bunch of people in the area, I'm always like, even if something grabs my attention, I want to look around and see if anybody else is like seeing what I'm seeing, or they're having the same emotions I'm having. And when I was looking around and I was seeing how involved the fans were, I was looking at my own self and I'm thinking, this is good wrestling here. And I'm looking around and I see people getting so into it. And especially like a couple matches before Hobo Hank, I was just hearing chatters of people like, oh, I'm just here to see Hobo Hank, or I just want to see Hobo Hank. And I met him. I gave him a high five backstage, and, you know, I've met him in the station one time. But it's just crazy to see, like, there's people that have never met him and they only know him as a wrestler. And they're like, oh, I'm here for Hobo Hank. And I'm like, this is super special and super cool.
Yeah, the part about it being super special and super cool is very true. You know, but the part to me that's even better is how people are willing to share that with others. You know, because it's, hey, and I don't know if this is the exact conversation you had, but if the conversation is like, hey, Isaiah, if this is your first time, you know, what you're about to experience is Hobo Hank. Or, hey, what you're about to experience is, you know, Tommy Two Scoops. Or, hey, what you're about to experience is Mr. Happy. And I think it's important because we're so freaking inclusive and we're so freaking representative to where you go to Duke City Championship Wrestling, you're going to see a guy that is old and overweight and white, and that's Hobo Hank. And Journey Fatu was there, and obviously he's, you know, shoot part of the bloodline, and he's of Islander descent. And Turbo Tony is a black guy, and El Viejo is a Native American, and Tommy Two Scoops is from northern New Mexico, and we got two beautiful white guys from Phoenix that you just want to hate. And you know, there's someone oh boy that made his debut, Enrique Calderon. Like, every 13-year-old kid should fall in love with this undersized Hispanic go-getter, you know? and that's not on accident. Like, we make it to look that way. When you were watching Turbo Tony out there, and he went twice the other night. So he goes to the tag team with Tommy Test, and then he goes against Brian Idol. Did you find yourself like inherently rooting for him? Was he like your guy because he represented you?
Well, yeah, I've ran into him a couple of times, like outside of Duke City, and he's a nice guy. But then he's in there, and I see the emotion, and I saw into it that he was, and I'm like, oh yeah, he's all the way invested. I'm all the way invested. I'm on his side. I'm on his team. Let's go.
Love it. There were a couple of big moments that night. Balak Vile has gone from venomous to revered. So how very excited we were for him to have the crowd react that way. And then, like you mentioned, Hobo Hank and Journey Fatu. Journey, the brother of Jacob Fatu, famed for Friday Night SmackDown, part of the Anoa'i and Fatu bloodline. He is a tremendous competitor. Could not have been more impressed with him. And that sets up our big main event. That sets up our cage match at the Rio Rancho Event Center. That is August the 31st. Tickets available at dccwtickets.com. Also, if you buy a ticket to that, do keep in mind that I own that. That will slide money into my pockets. If you buy a ticket to my show, I have your money. That's how that works. So come out. We have a bunch of cool community partners. Is that the cage is in the works. Big thank you to Valley Fence for building that bad boy. Also, and this is not public yet, but I'm going to go ahead and put this out there for you. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna go ahead and give you a breaking news.
Uh-oh. If it's what I think it is.
It's not.
Okay.
This is different breaking news.
Okay.
So you remember during COVID that WWE was trying some different things. They were doing Raw Underground. They were trying some different approaches, to keep the show, pretty entertaining, right?
Yeah, the digital screens.
Yep, had a whole bunch of stuff. And from there was a bunch of cool factions. That's where Omos came out. There was a bunch of guys of that NXT call up kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Former NXT superstar, former WWE superstar, Dabba-Kato, or Commander Aziz, is going to be with us August 31st at the Rio Rancho events. And it is his first, Isaiah. It is his first independent booking since his days in WWE. So let's go, Commander Aziz. Welcome to the Duke City. We're very excited to have he.
Wow.
So big get for Duke City Championship Wrestling.
That's huge. And
I'm pumped.
It's like when you get the cage, you get the Rio, and you think that somebody would be content, and you guys are out here just pulling bigger and bigger names.
He's 7 foot tall. He can grab the top of the cage. Like, who knows what's going to happen? We're stepping away so we can come back, and whenever we do, we're going to talk about the world of professional wrestling as a whole. As SummerSlam is quickly approaching, we're going to talk about, do we midsummer have excitement for a little break? I tell you what, I think the Olympics have distracted me a little bit. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about how important it is WWE stays up on their product, and we will talk about Isaiah Johnson figuring out how to get in the ring. You need an example. Commander Aziz was a collegiate football player. He can show you how to do it. It's going over on 95.9 FM and AM 610, the Sports Animal. Welcome back to the program. Welcome back to Going Over. I'm Fred Slow. And for Saleh Taylor, Isaiah Johnson, my co-host on 2 Men On, which you can hear Monday through Friday here on the Sports Animal. That is 4 to 7 p.m. Also, you can catch Zay on his podcast. Zay, where's your podcast at?
It is on YouTube, Zay Talks 824. I actually just uploaded a video yesterday. My buddy's a Packer fan. I'm gonna have to connect him with you and Van. I think it'd be interesting. We went over Jordan Love versus Dak and who we think should get paid first.
If you ran a series where you got a fan from every team just to argue with, I would watch that series. Good series.
I like where you're going with that.
And when you can't find any Giants fans, ask me and I'll pretend, because that's not a real team that deserves fans. They are the worst team. They are not the ones.
Okay, noted. I'll remember that one.
Yeah. Also, time of taping of this broadcast is Friday, July 26th. The airing is tomorrow, Saturday, July 27th. So thank you for joining us on a Saturday morning terrestrially. Also, thank you to everyone who joins us in the live chat. That stuff is fun. I enjoy that stuff. So thank you for being a part of that as well. Okay, Isaiah. SummerSlam's right around the corner.
Ooh. Where's the location at again?
Cleveland. So It's in Cleveland. It'll be a good get. Ohio, known for pro wrestlers. Some of the best pro wrestlers that have ever pro wrestled are from the state of Ohio. The big one is The Miz, right? Yeah, he's huge. Dolph Ziggler no longer with WWE. Logan Paul. There is just so many individuals. John Moxley, who's with AEW now, Brian Pillman, obviously Alexa Bliss. Dana Brooke. We could run the list. I think Randy Savage is from Ohio.
Really?
Yeah. With that said, WWE never fails Ohio. WWE never fails Cleveland. They never fail Cincinnati. Whenever they have to slum in Columbus, they don't fail that.
Cincinnati is a big one.
Cincinnati is big. Cincinnati's huge. Chris Hero is from Ohio. Al Snow is from Ohio. Shark Boy, Zoe Sky. I could keep Perry Saturn. Like, we could keep going, right?
Mm-hmm.
With that said, doing SummerSlam in Cleveland is a big deal. You're going to end up with a payoff swerve. And right now, Johnny Gargano from the live chat, thank you to friend of Duke City Championship Wrestling and host of Downtime in the Ring, Donovan Jurgis. We're going to have him on this program very soon. I know I did his show a couple weeks ago, Isaiah. Go check that out on YouTube.
Okay.
They do a good job. They also get good gets from around the country. They find talent. They interview talent. I like talent shows. Okay, with that said, WWE's over in Tokyo right now. They're doing their deal. They're going to come back. They're going to be ready for this one. Have you seen how the card is lining up for SummerSlam, and how excited are you?
I am super pumped for the Liv Morgan versus Rhea Ripley match.
You love that stuff.
Well, this is super interesting though, because I think I mentioned to you after I went to the WWE event last year that I liked Dom. I liked Dom's aura. I like the way he's plays the bad guy. I like the way he plays heel. And this Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley situation obviously has his handprints all over it. So I'm interested into that one. And I'd like to see CM Punk, the return. How about it?
Yeah, CM Punk versus Drew McIntyre. Looks like Seth Rollins is going to be the special guest referee for that one. We'll talk in length. But, before we jump to that, there is something special about Dominic Mysterio. He's like a subplot to this whole thing, right? He's a subplot to Damian Priest leaving. He's a subplot to the Finn Balor, Damian Priest, what to come. He's a subplot in the world of, he got hurt, and then after he gets hurt, and JD McDonough is a dude. Like, that's a full-on pro wrestling dude. But he's taken this fun subplot. Often I hate love stories in pro wrestling because they're played out. And he is taking this thing to just a really special next level.
Yeah.
And it's as entertaining as anything I've ever seen, ever.
What's so sweet about it is that his dad, Ray, was the complete opposite. Like, I don't remember Ray ever being heel. Like, Rey Mysterio, I don't think he ever was disliked by the fans. I don't even think he ever really did anything that upset the fans to that extent. So you had Ray, who was like the golden boy. He was smaller, so everyone already kind of felt bad for him. When Great Khali squeezed his head, I mean, kids were actually crying about that when the blood was coming out of his mouth. And then you get Dom, and he's just the complete opposite of Ray. Not only that, but he's bigger. He has more of a bully look to him. And I think he's doing a great job at playing his role.
Well, the difference between him and Ray, and this is an obvious one, it's size, right? Because it's, Ray is so little, like physically little.
Yes.
And you're like, you kind of hard to be a heel when you're a little teeny guy. But Dominic's got legitimate size on him, and then, talking about pro wrestling fan, I'm not talking about the first row of pro wrestling events, but I'm talking about traditional pro wrestling fans. How much do they hate nepotism? How much do they hate when it's handed to them? How much do they hate the ease of access that he has gotten, the same way that they booed Charlotte for Ric Flair?
I was just going to ask about it.
There's so much of that in fandom of pro wrestling. And WWE is like, hey, throw that and we'll catch it. So watch us catch it.
Okay.
Like, to call Rey Mysterio deadbeat dad for as long as they did, yes. Like, that's the worst. That is the dumbest storyline. And with Dom running around, I'm loving it.
It's a great storyline. It's a storyline that I didn't expect to have this big of a turn, because he wasn't really heel until he came and was like Oppo, his dad, right? Like, he started out as he was likable.
Yeah, you guess. I mean, he was like a whippersnapper, He was, he was Ray's kid, and he was Ray's tag team partner, and that was fun. But there are a handful of names that have never done the heel run. The John Cena's, the Ricky Steamboats, Sting, Jeff Hardy for the most part. Like, there's a bunch of dudes that have just never had to do it. I guess technically, Hardy was when he was doing stuff with Michael Hayes and Gangrel when he was over in what's the other one, TNA. But no, I mean, he's like untouchable, and that's what made it so fun for Dominic to go there, because you don't see that coming. Like,
exactly.
Oh, why aren't you like your dad, dude?
And even think way back to the Eddie Guerrero Mysterio battle for Dominic match. Like, even that had a lot of people like, oh, it's Dominic. Like, we want to like Dominic. Like, we remember Dominic. He's all grown up now. And then they, like you said, they took it, and the WWE maximized on it.
Was, I think, the only heel thing I can really remember, and it was 2014 or 2015, and miss me if I'm wrong on this. It was the WWE Universe super wanted Roman Reigns to win the Royal Rumble, and then like Rey Mysterio like put him out, and people were like incredibly confused, and they were like, "What?" So
you mean as far as Rey being heel?
Yeah, like, I don't think it's ever happened. Not that I can recall, but that, that's the brilliance of Dominic and the way you present him. Because I think a lot of heels get I'm a super bad dude, I'm super tough, like I'm a heel, like I'm that guy, blue, this, that, the other thing. His was, he went to jail for a couple hours after he got in a Thanksgiving fight with his family So he became hardened. Like he's claiming a credibility. Like and he's presenting as like blood in, blood out. And it's
even his theme music changed. Like everything about it changed. And he's just walking out, he's mean mugging people.
Well, it's so funny you're saying mean mugging, because like if we were using Albuquerque, New Mexico, where you and I live, if he's from the mean streets of Albuquerque, he's actually from the mean streets of Corrales. He's not. He's from where he hears horses neigh at night.
Yeah, you're like, come on, buddy.
No, just grow up and figure it out. And that's the thing too, right? Because he's so ignorant about the prison stuff. He's so ignorant about the nepotism stuff. He's so ignorant about being part of Damian Priest's stable. Name is escaping me. He's so ignorant about women. Like you have the top. Like that's on the pedestal is Rhea Ripley. On the pedestal is every desire of everyone who turns on USA Network or Fox twice a week. That is her. And he just messes around on it. He just screws the whole thing up. And now you hate him even more. Like
if I'm Dom, Liv Morgan would probably get me to make some people upset.
Dang.
I personally, I'm a Liv Morgan fan. I want to see Liv win.
I'd love it.
Yeah, I'm Oppo the greater good on that one.
I don't even know if Liv and Rhea are the story behind it though, because I think right now with Rhea, I'm like, oh Rhea, I feel for you. Your guy sucks. But with Liv, I'm like, get beat up.
Yeah, you're like
homewrecker,
little fly.
You're taking advantage of this idiot, Dominic Mysterio. I know he's an idiot. I've seen him. I look right at him. Got an idiot face.
So what do you think the second biggest match is? I think the Logan's always going to have some numbers.
In Ohio, right? Because so Logan Paul and LA Knight for the WWE Championship, and this is the one where LA Knight goes over. So I don't ever pick Logan Paul to lose. I never ever pick it. He's too big of a name, but his lady's about to have a baby. And that's the thing that's going on in real life. And he will step away from the WWE during that time. And we won't see Logan Paul back until Royal Rumble. So congratulations to LA Knight. He's going to have a big moment at SummerSlam. He's going to walk away the U.S. champ, and that's going to be cool.
That's a good way to predict the winner. I wouldn't, it's not going to be about like physical matchup or anything like that.
No. I just got to get some time off. And also the crowd will react accordingly, right? Like the crowd loves LA Knight. The crowd will,
I think that's gold.
Well, and it's then, the LA Knight story is you've only told LA Knight story pursuing the championship. You've only told LA Knight story as the underdog. You've only told LA Knight story outmatched or outmanned by the bloodline. Like give LA Knight a cool SummerSlam moment. Give him what I would call the weakest of the mid-card titles and see what he does from it from a champion's perspective. And, and if he rides it and he looks really good and the crowd stays behind him and his new t-shirt sells well, heck yeah. Give him a shot at Survivor Series, or give him a shot at Royal Rumble, or give him a shot at WrestleMania if we want to book out far out in advance and see if he can carry it.
I was gonna say when I watched the WrestleMania, I'm sure you watched it, the WrestleMania documentary, like the behind the scenes, the hour-long video on YouTube.
Oh, let me tell you why I didn't. Oh, so it was on YouTube.
That's why you didn't watch it.
There was a 30-second commercial break every 2 minutes. And I was like, I'm not going to buy YouTube Plusy or whatever it is. Like, I'm not a Plusy boy.
Premium.
Yeah, miss me with that.
You got to watch it. It's good.
Was not for me.
Well, what I did notice, I learned a lot, number one. I'm sure most of the stuff I learned in there you knew already. But I did learn that how a wrestler affects the crowd, his relationship with the crowd has a lot to do with how his journey goes.
Sure.
And I think that LA Knight, he does a good job at connecting with the crowd, just like Uso. Like, I don't think if the Usos connected with the crowd so well, I mean, maybe Roman losing the title would have lost some of their momentum, but they didn't because they veered off their own way. And I think LA Knight with his whole, I think that, and he connects with the crowd real well. I think he's a good candidate to let him have this big SummerSlam moment and see where he can go afterwards.
Yeah, there's like an interesting psychology to it because it's what's the best way to explain this? there's different reactions of crowds, right? So the last thing you want is for nothing to happen, and you've seen that when people come out, like music hits and you check your phone, you're missing them.
Yeah, that wrestler they tried.
Yeah, that's not
I forgot his name.
But if your music hits and the crowd cheers you, they lose it. They come out of their seat. You get to the ring. They're celebrating you. You're leading them in your chant. They're following you in your chant. Great. Can you carry that on, though? Will the crowd start the chant while you're performing? Like, is it only call and response, or are they excited to do it on their own? And then vice versa. We were talking about cheers. Let's talk about jeers. Like, you come out and you can catch jeers just as equally as you can catch cheers. Oh, my God. You have the exact same amount of value, maybe more.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, heel wrestling, and you are just slightly on the younger side, so this one might not hit with you. Larry Zbyszko for a lot of years would run into the ring, Isaiah, and he would steal one to you, and he would run out of the ring and he'd roll under the ropes, and he would stand there with his arms on his hips, and the crowd would go, "We hate you, we hate you so much." And that to me is where you get the crowd to get at you, or you get the crowd to get in favor of you. And LA Knight, I think he's a guy right now who's got a lot of call and response, but does he have a crowd that's going to come to life for him on his own? And we're going to see. I think the same thing with Jey Uso.
Mm-hmm. So a good example of what you just said. I bet the best ever has got to be Kurt Angle.
Oh, that's a good one, because the crowd would lose it for him. Who's really good is CM Punk. You'll get CM Punk chants all the time without CM Punk even being out there. A really good one is Bray Wyatt, rest in peace. There are individuals that would spawn or spur so much from the crowd without enticing the crowd, and that is a special level. Those fans running up to Hobo Hank at Duke City Championship Wrestling to make sure that he drinks their beer.
Yeah,
that's the thing.
So that's why you got John Cena as a GOAT, huh?
Oh my God, he's so good.
Okay, when you put it in that perspective, he does hit on all cylinders.
All of them.
He hits on all cylinders.
If John Cena comes out for his retirement match at WrestleMania, I will stand with hustle, loyalty, and respect above my head the entire match, the entirety of it, and I'll love it. There's like other ways where that's worked too, right? Where it's not as to a distraction or to a negative, but like Dom. Like Dirty Dominic Mysterio, we just talked about. He picks up the microphone. What does the crowd do? Ooh. Oh, it's so sweet. And now he owns that thing. Like, you can't do that for anyone else.
Looks around. And...
They try to do it for Nia Jax, and it's not the same. It's getting the crowd to work with you, which is incredible. We need one more break before we come back. This one is fun. We're going to keep breaking down the card. And we, on Two Men On earlier this week, talked about what the dollar amount is to get Isaiah to change his fandom of a sports team to the rivals sports team of his favorite sports team, the Dallas Cowboys. I think the number to get Isaiah Johnson into the pro wrestling ring is a lot lower. And we're going to talk about that after this. It's going over on 95.9 FM and AM 610, the Sports Animal. Welcome back to the program. Welcome back to Going Over. I am Fred Slow. Sitting in for Saleh Taylor is one Isaiah Johnson. Isaiah, welcome, brother.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
We're talking a little bit about the SummerSlam card. Obviously, we can go to the top of the card. That's Cody Rhodes and Solo Sikoa. We're going to be fortunate to enjoy that one. There's no way Solo is going to go over on this. Do expect the build for Survivor Series at this event, and I don't know specifically if that's the return of Roman Reigns, but I would expect Jimmy Uso would be a big part of this one.
Yeah, let Roman sit a little longer. Let the suspense build up some more.
So look for Jimmy to come back, and then Survivor Series, which will undoubtedly be War Games, will be as good as anything you've ever seen. I went last year; it was in Chicago, and it was the return of CM Punk, and maybe one of the most special pro wrestling moments I've been a part of. Damian Priest and Gunther for the World Heavyweight Championship. This one, I believe, will go the way of Damian Priest. If Gunther is the champion, that's because Finn Balor will have screwed it up for Damian Priest. So I would also be excited to see that story develop. Bayley and Nia Jax is when I will take a restroom break. Sami Zayn and Braun Breaker. This is where Braun wins. Good on Sami for holding it down. Good on Sami for being that thing. But look for the winter months that he and I would assume Kevin Owens start spending a lot of time together in storylines, maybe do some tag team stuff, because the men's tag team division is lacking. An example of that is how it's not on this card for SummerSlam right now. So look for Braun Breaker to also become a champion. I'm calling 2 title changes at SummerSlam, and then CM Punk versus Drew McIntyre with Seth Rollins as a special guest referee. 3 of the best storytellers in the industry. That'll be one of the best pro wrestling matches you've seen, and not currently being advertised, but I think is going to be very good, is going to be the Wyatt Six taking on Chad Gable and his tag team of Beat Upable stable, because that's going to be a good introduction for the Wyatt Six in the ring, as Chad Gable and his boys are going to catch a whooping.
Hearing your breakdown of all the matches, it's crazy, because I've never looked at WWE in the perspective of, outside of just looking at the momentum and who I think has cooler moves or who has a, more powerful finisher. There's a lot more that goes into it. So like you mentioned earlier with Logan Paul having a baby, or maybe a group looking for an opportunity to have a big moment and have momentum building forward to next pay-per-view events. Because growing up, when I was watching, I never really paid attention to the next event unless they started promoting it like present.
Yeah.
So unless I heard wrestlers saying like, oh, at Survivor Series, I never was thinking about Survivor Series. So I never was thinking like down the line like that. And I'm sure that goes into you doing your own story writing for your Duke City Championship Wrestling.
Yeah, it's neat because there's different levels, and the Creed brothers is who I was trying to come up with, so my apologies for missing on that. But that's going to be a early and good stomp approach. That's going to be what puts them over in that reintroduction, and then the momentum of the bloodline, the kind of shuffling of that, the emergence of Jacob Fatu, former Duke City Championship Wrestling star, who's going to, I believe, be a pinnacle role in that story. So you have to give them a rev while you're still letting this high engine of the bloodline run, which a lot of people are claiming it simmered, but I'm telling you it didn't. They made you hate it. That's like, and I think that's what pro wrestling fans always get. You're talking about yourself as a young fan. Yeah, you wanted Batista to win because he was the biggest and had the most tattoos and did those things, but he'd have to leave and go shoot a movie sometimes. And that's just kind of how the industry works. So, so I would say a lot of my predictions are based off of that. In a perfect world of exact only storytelling, I could never give you an example when I think Cody Rhodes will ever lose, because he's the champ. Like he's the best one to ever do it. And I don't know if you saw today, but you see these photos in Tokyo of him wearing like his dad's like famed Tokyo gear, and you see all the effort they put behind him. I'm like, he's invincible.
The fans will have to be probably in control of if he ever loses. Like he would have to lose some momentum with the fans, which I don't see happening. And just like what you said, also, I remember when Donald Trump and Vince had the shave your head match.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Trump's going to lose. And my dad's like, Trump is a businessman. He has too many things to run. He's not going to shave his head. So he's not going to win. And I'm like, yeah, right. We'll see. And then, of course, Vince ended up getting his head shaved.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
We did a hair for career match. And it was hilarious. You know what I mean? Because and you know how you get a guy to shave his head? You give him an extra $100. Like that's how you get the job. Like you figure it out. It is not hard at all. We're coming near the end. Also at the time of this recording, you and I both got to go to our other show, so we're super up against it. Isaiah, you're a former collegiate football player. You got a ton of personality. You look like a chocolate Adonis with your shirt off. Like, what is it going to take to put you oiled up in front of a room full of screaming fans and let them fall in love or fall in hate with you, brother? Like, what's it going to take to get you in the world of pro wrestling?
So I don't know if you can tell, but I'm hitting the gym every day, right? So I'm doing my part as far as that goes and preparing my body for it. I just need to get my feet right. It's like I can look super good, but if my feet don't feel correct, I don't know if I could perform the way I'd want to perform.
Off the injury, that's what you're talking about.
Yeah, so like coming off the surgery, I just want to let that, like, once I feel like I'm 100% there, I'll be good. I'm able to do more like squats and hang cleans and explosive lifts in the gym now, so I think I'm close. So I think before the end of the year, I'll be ready.
It's rubber band work. That's what I'm telling you. You got to just move that thing around.
Yeah.
Teach it a lesson. Then get in the ring. And there's fun ways to do it beforehand, right? Because like I know you don't have a suit that fits because you grew up poor. But if we get you like a really nice suit, like have you out, like and you be the heavy, right? You be the muscle for like an undersized heel. Like there's something to it. There's a brilliance to this thing.
Okay, and I trust your creativity, and I trust your storytelling and your projections. So I trust you with it.
Do you own a black beret?
I don't.
You need that.
I'll get one.
That's the thing that I think will put you over. You got to go, Isaiah. Thank you so very much for joining me on Going Over this week. It was an absolute banger. I will run out the program without you. Final words, friend?
Thank you so much. I'd love to be back on here. I'd even join Saleh as well. If you guys.
Oh, gross. Oh, yeah. Oh, the two of you would be too much for the Championship Wrestling audience. Isaiah Johnson, thank you so much.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Fred.
What an absolute dude. Handful of minutes left on the program. And, the thing that's so interesting about territory wrestling, the thing that's so interesting about federations, the thing that's so interesting about independent local pro wrestling is how individuals become a part of it. And Isaiah Johnson's a really good example, right? Isaiah, who played collegiate football when I was the broadcaster for New Mexico Highlands University, super athletic on the field, big personality. And, the thing about those big personalities is when you can pair athleticism with it, there's nothing better than the world of pro wrestling. There's nothing better than entertainment. You're like, well, Fred, I'm not athletic. Fred, I can't do the flips. Fred, I can't pick up a guy. Neither could I. That's a big part of the story to me. Because when I was young and I was growing up and I was trying to figure out how I was going to penetrate the world of entertainment, I, like you, couldn't do the Rey Mysterio moves. I, like you, couldn't do the Kevin Nash powerbomb. I probably could do that one, but you get the example. Get into that world of storytelling. The voice behind, go to watchdccw.com. The voice behind the action in the ring, just as vital as the action in the ring. The television production behind the wrestling in the ring, just as important as the wrestling in the ring. The guerrilla position, creating entrances and videos and music and timing and the guy that rings the bell and the ring announcer and the merch seller and the pizza supplier and the cupcake maker and the security guard, and you can run the list. Being a part of pro wrestling is not just pro wrestling. Everything is pro wrestling. There's contributions to it. There's individuals that are a part of it that have never strapped up boots, and it does not mean they are not an authority in that craft. It's the coverage of it, your podcast, your vodcast. Rusty Rutherford has become the best pro wrestling photographer that I have ever met, and he was shooting fruit in a bowl a year ago. Like, there is a world of talent surrounding this entity that exists, and it comes from all walks. And if you have any interest, Duke City Championship Wrestling.com. All of our contact information is there. Also, tickets to August the 31st. It's locked in the Rio Rancho Event Center. You can visit us at dccwtickets.com. Tickets as low as $20, $20 to $40. We're not taking it from your pocket. We're fortunate to have a lot of good partners in the community. We're fortunate to have a lot of individuals that give effort above their compensation, myself included. And how important and fun and special it is to have everyone out to be able to be a part of that thing. Also, it's a fun check mark, the event center. It's 2,995 seats. That's 5 seats short of 3,000. And I will comp 5 seats to someone so that I can claim we put 3,000 in there. Pro wrestling alive and well in the state of New Mexico, and how fortunate Duke City Championship Wrestling is to be a part of that. August the 31st, Rio Rancho Event Center. September 5th through 15th, the New Mexico State Fair. September 21st, the International Folk Art Museum. We're celebrating the history of Luchador. That's going to be a lot of fun. September 26th, we turn right around back at the El Rey, more TV tapings. We're never going to let the TV program slip. We're looking at October the 19th at the Santa Fe Rail Yards. That's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to get up there, do a fun cultural show. We're going to do it outside right before it gets cold. And then, of course, we're going to do Halloween. You know the boys are not. If Halloween is falling on a Thursday, your boys are doing Halloween. One show in November. That's the night before Thanksgiving. Join us for that. And then two shows in December, as we're currently negotiating one with Las Vegas, New Mexico. It is too much fun right now in the world of pro wrestling. And if you haven't got a chance to get out and see it, you are missing out on seeing it. Isaiah Johnson just gave you a testimonial. You can get everything Duke City Championship Wrestling at DCCW, at DukeCityChampionshipWrestling.com, DCCWtickets.com, watch DCCW, and shop DCCW for your apparel. Don't forget to follow us on our social media outlets, as they will help you. And don't forget to tune into myself, Isaiah Johnson, who you just heard, and our co-host, Van Nunley, Monday through Friday, right here on 95.9 FM and AM 610, the Sports Animal.